Well, Sidev started the new financial year with 3 new contract wins and the renewal of an existing contract, lighting a rocket under its share price the day the news hit the market. Well, along with the contract reveal, Sidev finessed, I guess you could say, its FY26 revenue outlook. So to get us across the detail, a very warm welcome to SciDev's Sean Halpin. Sean, welcome to AusBiz. Thank you so much. I think it's worthwhile to just take one little step back. For those who may not be across the SciDev story, just give us a quick overview of the company.
Look, in short, I think it's easiest to say that SciDev partner with heavy industry to solve the most complex water problems. We're a diversified business operating across a range of end markets and a range of geographies, but each of our business units is tied together by a central water thematic. And all of our technologies, all of our solutions either reduce the amount of fresh water that's consumed by these industries, optimize water use within their core processes, minimize the amount of contaminated water that they produce, or repair legacy environmental damage that's been caused by these industries.
All right, so with that as the backdrop, you have had a pretty good quarter, I think it's fair to say, with $21.5 million in new and renewed contracts. Can you just walk us through, well, I suppose the significance of the wins and what they tell us about where the business is headed?
I think firstly, we're delighted as a management team and board to be able to update the market, and certainly delighted with the market response. But I think there's a number of significant points that sort of come from the release. One is that we've secured a number of contracts across each one of our business units. So it's quite diverse in terms of the wins. We've secured wins across our flagship technologies and across each one of our business units. So that's been keen to see wins across each aspect of the business. Secondly, it's demonstrated our ability to secure new work, and I think to secure new contracts and revenues. And when operating in competitive environments, even with market-leading technology and high-performance technology, our ability to identify, pursue, and secure new contracts is certainly going to be the key to our ongoing success and ongoing growth. And I think finally, in a year that's been marred by some turbulent macroeconomic conditions, and being able to demonstrate that we can grow in a challenging environment is also something that should be taken from this as well. So yeah, certainly very pleased with the performance and from a BD perspective within the business, and great to be able to release that to market.
Yeah, okay. Now into some of the detail of these wins. It's a $10 million Permian Basin deal, and I believe that one is with a blue chip E&P company. So that's got to be a pretty major milestone. I believe it's for chemistry solutions in oil and gas. So just how competitive is your technology in this market?
Contract has come off the back of some significant field trial and also a targeted approach to growing our business within the Permian over the last 12 months. And I think in our Q2 announcement, or our Q2 quarterly, we spoke about the extensive field trial we were doing within the region, and off the performance of the technology, both of our friction reducer and our catch-out technology within that field trial, we've been able to secure this contract. In terms of how our technology performs and the competitive advantage, well, if we look at our friction reducers, they are high performance, and I think, yes, consistently, be it on the bench during lab analysis or during field trials, we've been able to outperform the competition. But the point of difference that we provide really sits within our catch-out technology. That's our proprietary chemistry. It's a multi-benefit additive. It allows for a more efficient frac within the oil field, minimizes the amount of water that's consumed within the process, minimizes downtime, but importantly, increases production of oil from the wells where catch-out is applied by up to and exceeding 10% in some way. So we're not only saving our customers money by increasing efficiencies within the frac end, which is the capex cycle within oil and gas. But we're also increasing their revenue by increasing the amount of oil that their assets are producing. And in tough market environments where our customers are looking to maximize their profits, it's a really compelling argument. And at the moment, we certainly view CatCheck as being peerless in the market.
Okay, interesting. And look, PFAS, so-called forever chemicals, I understand that you've secured that remediation project in New South Wales. What are the demand drivers for that PFAS technology locally, first of all, but also internationally? Because I understand that Europe is quite a fruitful market, or potentially so.
So, look, I think the main driver of that market is regulation, increase in regulation globally, and locally we've actually been well ahead of the curve in terms of the regulation and enforcement of that regulation with regard to PFAS within the Australian market. But I think there's a much broader awareness of PFAS contamination. And a lot of these landowners are now much more aware that they do have contamination issues and are certainly being driven now to remediate that. So that would be the sort of short-term drivers within the domestic market. Globally, though, we've seen some real shifts in terms of PFAS regulation over the last 12 to 18 months. In the US, we've seen remediation legislation under CERCLA. We've seen the first federally enforceable drinking water legislation that's been landed as well. And in Europe, we're seeing sort of country to country or EU member state to EU member state enforcement of their own domestic regulation, and some real movement in that market. So I think the PFAS addressable market as a whole continues to grow with this increase in regulation, and we're really starting to see spend now on the remediation end of things, which is certainly plays to our advantage.
This is true, and I'd say, it's probably good news for most of us. But, if you've got that type of regulation and you've got a changing environment, then no doubt it brings competition into the market. I don't think that SciDev is the only company that's looking to address this problem. So what is it then that sets SciDev's PFAS technology apart from the competition?
We're certainly not the only solutions provider in the space. And in fact, there's some more traditional treatment technologies that can remove PFAS, such as granular activated carbon, but just not very well, not very efficiently, not very effectively, and certainly not very cost effectively either for anyone that would be using it. So SciDev, when compared to competing technologies, or SciDev's FluoroFix technology, when compared to competing technologies, has three core benefits. One is the holding capacity of our media, or of our filtration media. Essentially, we're able to remove more PFAS per kilo of filtration media that's applied, allowing us to treat more water and allowing our customers to do more for the same dollar.
Okay.
Secondly, it's extremely high performance in terms of our ability to meet the lowest possible limits of reporting and to be able to treat the most contaminated waste streams that we're able to encounter. And finally, the third point is around waste generation. And byproduct waste generation is the biggest driver of cost when you look at the total life cycle cost of a PFAS treatment project. And SciDev has a best-in-class performance when it comes to waste generation. So when you take all three together, you get an extremely commercially viable option that's also high performance. And that's been the key to our success domestically, and the reason that we've been able to secure the initial contracts in Europe and in North America, as our brand awareness continues to grow and the technology continues to be accepted.
Okay. Now, you've also secured wins across oil and gas, mining, water utilities, and infrastructure as well. Are you seeing any particular sector outpacing the others in terms of opportunity right now, Sean?
From a revenue perspective, oil and gas is certainly booming for us at the moment. But from an opportunity perspective, I think one of the exciting things about SciDev at the moment is we have a huge amount of opportunity across each one of our verticals and across each one of our business units. Within our mining chemistry business, through our relationship with and joint venture with Nair Chemicals, we now have the ability to target higher value international mining contracts. Within the oil field, the catch-check technology that I spoke about earlier is really opening doors for us and really gaining market acceptance. And then we have the international PFAS market that's booming for us. So there's no one avenue, no one market that is presenting. Yeah, the main opportunity, we've got opportunities across the board, which is a great position to be in.
Okay. As you mentioned earlier, global regulations are really tightening, especially around environmental remediation. Water is, so crucial as we move forward and, really at the heart of many environmental concerns at this time. So how is that evolution of regulation playing into SciDev's pipeline of opportunities? And is there any concern in the United States in particular that some of those environmental regulations might be wound back and therefore hurting business?
There's certainly some concern. It's not something that we've seen. I think that was a big question around about sort of November, December of this year, particularly with regard to PFAS regulation as to whether we were going to see windbacks. We certainly haven't. We've seen some deferring or some the increasing of some compliance periods, which was largely expected, but no significant windback, which has been great to see. But I think across the entire business, we certainly have strong regulatory tailwinds. Environmental regulation is good for us. Our users and our client base being driven to meet more stringent regulations and stringent compliance criteria does drive the market for us. But it's important to note that our principal piece here is about improving our clients' operational outcomes as well. So we want to promote the efficient use of water. We want to make them better at what they do. We want to reduce their OpEx costs and improve their P&Ls, while hand in hand allowing them to meet their regulatory requirements. And I think that's been the key to our success to date, and certainly something that provides a real robustness to SciDev's business model.
Now, I mentioned off the top that you flagged potential FY26 revenue in the range of about $120 to $140 million. How confident are you, Sean, that you may reach the upper end of that guidance?
I think the sole point that we were willing to release guidance shows that as a management team on board, we're certainly confident in growth into FY26. I will say that achieving the upper end of that range will be conditional to future contract wins, but there's certainly additional confidence being provided due to the quality and quantity of our BD pipelines across each one of our businesses at the moment. And I think that is certainly providing us with the conviction to be able to give guidance of this nature, and the confidence that we can meet and exceed that range.
So we've talked about some of the growth drivers, and obviously you've been winning these contracts with your order book. Is margin expansion also, on the cards and likely a driver of growth in FY26?
I think we've spoken in the past that each one of our business units and the business overall has got a significant amount of operating leverage. So the growth in revenue will inherently improve our EBITDA performance, our bottom line performance, for sure. So we can expect some level of margin improvement. But I think when we talk about revenue growth, it's important to note that as a management team, we're focused not just on revenue growth for revenue's sake. We're very much focused on the efficient use of the capital that we have available, so that we're driving returns from that revenue and generating free cash. And it's that free cash generation that's going to allow us to reinvest back into the business to drive future growth and to allow us to provide sustainable ongoing growth and continue on that growth trajectory.
All right, Sean, rapid fire questions for the end. I'll just wrap two into one. Where's the big growth coming from for the next, say, 12 to 24 months? And investors always want to know what the likely next catalyst will be. What should investors be watching out for as the next catalyst for SciDev?
To talk of where the growth is going to come from, we've got the similar levels of growth expectation across each part of our business. I think given that the energy business is firing so hot at the moment, and we're getting real acceptance of our catch-out technology, we would expect to see on a volume level a lot of that growth come from the oil field. But the PFAS market is growing and booming as well. So like I said before, we've got a huge amount of opportunity across the business, but I think in the short term, we can look to the oil field and CatCheck, and in the mid to long term, the PFAS addressable market continues to grow for us. The catalyst, I think it's hard to point out any one individual catalyst for growth. Like I said, we're subject to some strong regulatory tailwinds at the moment, but I think taking innovative technology and new technology to market certainly isn't for the faint of heart. And I think as we start to build on our wins, we're going to see iterative growth, which will then turn into exponential growth through the line. So from an investor perspective, what you should be looking for is more contract wins, showing that we're getting more runs on the board, that we're growing with more of our customers, extending our customer base. When you see that, you'll know that we're delivering on our strategy, and we will certainly look to keep the market as informed as possible going forward, so you can see that in real time.